Now, as we close today, I want to have you turn with me to the book of Genesis chapter 17. We looked at this last week in our Matthew study, but I left this portion separate because it is important that we look at this in a progression. And what I mean by progression is that God, as I said, has been giving more and more detail. It first of all begins with a promise to the nations, plural. And that is that Abraham will present to mankind going forward for generations outside of even Israel, to all the nations. The only way that God can be a blessing to the nations, plural, is in the person of Jesus Christ, because it's to him, Jew and Gentile alike, that God provides for us a Savior. Chapter 13 begins to give a little more definition. This is the stuff we've looked at. It's tagged on to the end of our Bible studies going back several weeks. And if you want to look at it that way, you can. If you're already a person who studies along with us through the Bible, you already know these things. We just piece them together at the end of each one of the studies. Now, God has said, I'm going to give you a place to live, a nation that's going to be your own. That's chapter 13, the first glimpse that it's going to involve some kind of land. Chapter 15 is it's going to be not only land, but it's going to become a direct descendant of you. Not somebody that just grew up in your house like Eliezer of Damascus. It's going to be one that comes directly from you, Abraham. And then chapter 16, Sarah says, I'm way past childbearing years. Maybe it'll come through Hagar. Here's my handmaiden. Take her, the Egyptian. And he does. Takes her as wife. She conceives, bears a son to him, Ishmael, his firstborn son, which should be the son of the promise. Okay? That's where we get so far. So there is a direct descendant directly from Abraham. They made the mistake of getting out ahead of God. It should have never been the case. It should not have been Ishmael. Now, God says in chapter 17 that I'm going to, once again, do this work of your people. And now he starts talking in the sense of an everlasting covenant. And we looked at that last week. We got to verse 6 of that, or verse 5 rather. Sorry, we got all the way to verse 8. And that was the promise that it's going to be a direct descendant of you. And then he gives to them it's not going to be really the focus of today. Verses 9 through 14 was, now, not only am I making a covenant with you, but the heirs of that same covenant are going to be known because of circumcision of the male child. And that child will be circumcised as just an outward way of recognition that they are part of that covenant. And so, interestingly enough, for those people that say that the church has replaced the promises to Israel, the church is never told that you have to be circumcised to be a part of that promise of what is the church. So, even at that, something that is so obviously a covenant thing, the circumcision of the firstborn of the sons, rather, is not something that the church is supposed to be doing. It's not told that it has to. People do anyway, but it's not commanded. Here it's commanded. To the church, it's not. So once again, that was something that they were not demanding among the Gentiles. At the time, read chapter 15 of the book of Acts, and you'll find that here's what you can't do. Don't be promiscuous sexually. Don't worship idols. Don't eat things sacrificed to them for the sensibilities of the Jewish believers among you. Just abstain from those things. But it doesn't even tell them that they have to be circumcised. So that's something that's reserved for the nation of Israel. And again, remember, God's making this covenant. I make my covenant with you and your descendants. One of the ways you'll know by the male descendants is the circumcision. So he says everlasting. So the thought that the church replaces Israel, well, they didn't replace them in a lot of different ways. But not to mention the fact that God makes that everlasting, or as long as there is an earth as we know it, it's going to be a covenant that's in place with the people of Israel. The church doesn't need concern itself with that. Romans 9, 10, and 11 is that while God is doing this work among his people, even though it's chastisement, he'll regather them. In the meantime, he's doing a work among the Gentiles until the number of the Gentiles is full, and then he turns his attention back to Israel. Book of Revelation. That's really very much looking at Israel, starting at chapter 5 onward, and the judgments that happen starting at chapter 6. Israel is very much in focus there, though it's a worldwide judgment. It's happening in Israel. So, with all of that as our background, we get back to chapter 17, and now let's take a look further at that promise. Now, in verse 15, He's really narrowing it down. He went from to the nations plural. Jesus fits that, verses 1 to 3 of chapter 12. I'm going to make you a blessing, and through you the nations of mankind, the generations of mankind is going to be blessed because of you. That's fulfilled in the person of Jesus, because that's to the nations plural. Now, I'm going to do a work with you that's going to include a particular land and a particular descendant. So he starts to talk about that. You're going to have sons, and I'm going to give you a land. Now, Ishmael is born to him. As far as Abraham's concerned, it's going to be Ishmael. Well, let's read on. Verse 15. Now God said to Abraham by this time, as for Sarai, your wife, you will no longer call her Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name, and I will bless her, and also give you a son by her. Then I will bless her, and she will be a mother of nations. That's what means Sarah to Sarah, from Sarai to Sarah, mother of nations. So like with him, it went from Abram, exalted father, to father of nations, Abraham. So he's changed both of their names. There's meaning to names. So he says this, she'll be a mother of nations, kings and peoples will be from her. And Abraham fell on his face, and he laughed. And he said in his heart, shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? By this time, Ishmael's in his adolescence. He's 13 years old by this time, right? When this all is said. So, and as for Sarah, who is 90 years old, is she going to bear a child? And Abraham said to God, oh, that Ishmael might walk before you. Everything comes to a full stop right here, because let's remember what's taken place to this point. God has said, I'm going to make a nation out of you, and it's going to be through one of your direct heir. And so here, God says to him, I'm going to make nations from Sarah. Abram says, wait a minute. Ishmael's from Hagar, not from Sarah. So how's this going to be? She's 90 years old. I'm 100. Is that possible? And they laugh about the whole thing. Well, notice what it says. So Abram said to God, oh, that Ishmael might walk before you. Then God said to him, no. No to Ishmael. Notice it's God saying this. It's not us. It's not the church saying this. It's not Israel saying this. This is Abram's solution. Let it be Ishmael. Let him be the son of the promise. Let him be the one that walks before you in the land. It's God's answer. Absolutely not. No emphatic. Sarah, your wife, shall bear you a son, and you will call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant, and with his descendants after him. Now, people in the church, the replacement theology people, the people who want to try to make the case that the sons of Ishmael have a right to the land and Israel doesn't have a right to the land, I don't care what you want to use as an excuse. I don't care how you want to massacre the passages. I don't care what you want to do to try to do violence to the text. There you have it. God said, absolutely not Ishmael. It will be Isaac. It will be him. It will be the land, and it will be everlasting, period, end of subject. If you want to try to torture the text to make it say something that it doesn't do so, feel free to do it. But you don't oppose me, you oppose what God has said here. Because he ends up saying about Ishmael, look at verse 20, as for Ishmael, I have heard, and behold, I have blessed him. I will make him fruitful. I will multiply him exceedingly. He will be beget 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you at this time next year. And so he finished talking with him, and God went up from Abram. I don't know how much clearer the text can be. When God says everlasting, he doesn't say until the church. He says everlasting, it's a covenant of the land and the people. But wait, they were displaced. Absolutely. How many other places could I take you to? Great example, 2 Chronicles chapter 7. God gave it to them here in Genesis as an everlasting inheritance. The land is theirs. It's everlasting. How much time they spent in the land was always going to be contingent on whether or not they sought him and walked with him. God puts that caveat there. I will do this if you will walk before me. If you won't, I'll displace you, but I won't make that displacement permanent. And we're going to make that the next installment of this. We're going to start to look at some of the places that the prophets spoke about this understanding there was an everlasting covenant, but also understanding that Israel would be wayward. And God speaks through the prophets of saying, though you will deny me, though you will reject me, I will still restore you at some time. Perfect that we're doing this after the Isaiah passage where we know that God says, you're going to be plundered, but a remnant's going to remain. We should keep those things in mind. So any questions you have on any of this, please contact me through the ministry's website. This stuff is so vitally important, both things, both what we see in Isaiah and how it speaks directly about the person of Jesus, or if we're taking a look here when it has to do with matters of Israel and whether or not they have a right to be in the land. Are they God's people? Are the promises that he made to Abraham still in place today? And how does that play in our world as we see it politically speaking and geopolitically in particular? So, and again, contact me through the ministry's website, oldpaththeology.net, if you have any questions. I love the dialogue and the back and forth. Feel free to leave your questions and comments if you'd like, also on the YouTube channel, because that can sometimes get active depending on the topics, and love to discuss those with you as well.